the Energy Institute from Pennsylvania State University. The title of the talk is Shape Selective Catalysts for Specialty Chemicals from Coal-Derived Polycyclic Hydrocarbons. And it'll be Dr. Chunshan Song.
First of all, congratulations, Bert. You have done a lot of work, outstanding contributions. We're really happy for you here. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor for me to be here to share our work with you, and particularly as a part of this Salt Award Symposium. I will share with you the work that we have done along the line of how to make specialty chemicals from the coal-derived polycyclic hydrocarbons. These are the things we've been working on at Penn State Energy Institute for the past 10 years. We worked on various selective conversion of polycyclic hydrocarbons. I hope that when Bert talked to me, I was under the impression that there would be people talking about direct liquefaction and indirect liquefaction, and therefore I chose a topic that is along the line of coal conversion, but how to make high-value chemicals from coal-derived liquid. And this is in that context. The work was done in the Energy Institute at Penn State, also associated with the Department of Energy and Geoenvironmental Engineering. Using the term shape selective catalysis in a broader context, and as you will see, we're talking about various conversions, various site-specific or shape selective. A large number of my former co-workers and current co-workers contributed to this. The work I will be mentioning in the first part of today was particularly done by the early batch of postdoctoral co-workers. Also, Professor Harold Schubert. Harold is also in the audience. Harold and I collaborated very closely in the area of non-fuel use of coal. When we started this earlier, in the early 90s, Frank Derbyshire, the later Professor Frank Derbyshire, was very instrumental. He was strongly supportive of the idea that we proposed to make specialty chemicals from coal. He was also one of the strong proponents for this area. Various work that we have done was supported by DOE and Air Product PQ and companies in supplying either funding or samples of catalysts. Speaking of chemicals from coal, we're looking at this topic today in a slightly different context. The new way that we believe, which will be important in the future as we use petroleum both for fuel and petrochemicals, we believe for coal there should be a better use as chemicals, and that better use should be based on the unique structural feature and compositional feature of the coal. So the tailored and also environmentally friendly chemical processing would be necessary. That involve chemistry, engineering, catalysis, pyrolysis, various bond cleavage involving structural unit, and that involve either reduction and oxidation, actually it's both, and certain stabilization needed. We're looking at the three categories of chemicals: aromatic chemicals, phenolic chemicals, and specialty chemicals. One of the points that I would like to make is early days we have lots of pioneers have paid attention to the possible use of coal as chemicals. In fact, the modern organic chemistry developed really from coal tar chemistry. If you look at the history, Perkin first developed a certain specialty chemical based on the coal tar, aromatic chemicals from coal tar. But today we're talking about, even though coal tar is still a valuable source, but coal tar may not be there forever. The new way of making chemicals is important. One more important issue, as we will see, simplification treatment is important. We cannot say simply because we have those compounds there, we will isolate the hundreds of components which will become cost prohibitive and practically undoable. simplification treatment before separation is one important issue that I like to emphasize. Also the effective separation. The basic driver in terms of a technical standpoint or the structural features, coal is really a unique source of 1 to 4 aromatic chemicals and 1 to 3 phenolic chemicals and some nitrogen functional groups. Harold and I collaborated closely. We have written 3 review articles on this topic of brownfield use of coal and chemicals and materials. We'll be happy to send anyone those reviews. But one of the points that we have made is if we really look at the situation, there is a push and a pull scenario here. The push actually for coal, we all know the environment surrounding coal in the world today. Whether that's due to perception or reality, and the public perceive coal as being dirty fuel, but on the other hand, coal will continue to be important source for energy, and also coal needs to find a new market in addition to being used just as solid fuels. Branching into chemicals and materials will improve coal economics, also public image. The pull side is if we can look at the structural feature of coal, pay attention to that aromatic phenolic unit of coal to be ideal source of value-added chemicals and monomers for aromatic engineering plastic, high-performance synthetic polymers, and liquid crystalline polymers. Some of them are the new advanced materials. The polymers were developed in the 80s, and they are lighter than aluminum and stronger than steel. There is a potential growth. And coal is a good source for carbonaceous materials, as we all know currently for coke and some carbon materials, such as activated carbon and carbon molecule sieves. And world production of coke and coal tar is declining, so there is an issue that whether in the future we can continue to count coal tar as chemicals or not. There is also a widespread perception that it's simply too complicated, you can't do anything about it, so let's simply burn it. When you talk to some of our friends, and this is one of the prevailing perceptions. And so the coal-derived liquid are complex, very complicated mixtures. Can you really do something about it? And so the first answer is yes, they are complicated, but no, they're not too complicated to be able to be used as a source for chemicals. And this is we will demonstrate the point to you. High content of aromatic phenolic, if you look at from different perspectives, they make them unique as a source for specialty chemicals. One of my early learning, I learned a lot from working with Harold, and Harold is very resourceful. He has taught me a lot of additives. This is one of them. He said, if life has your lemon, make lemonade. And this is a situation where I hope to demonstrate this point to you. Precisely on coal, we can make use of the coal structure specific and yet high value chemicals. They popularized the notion that coal liquid is too complicated. It's not just some feature. It's indeed very complicated. If you're simply looking at a lot of analytical literature, this is just one example of analysis of a middle distillate from coal liquid fraction. Actually, in the early 90s, we have a lot of literature. This is actually one of the earlier coal liquid from the mid-80s. We chose this to show we haven't changed the coal liquid nature in that sense. From 1 ring to 3 rings to 4 rings. In the middle distillate, it starts with 2 rings. You can see the structure: naphthalene, biphenyl, naphthalene, fluorine, phenanthrene, phenanthrene, phenanthrene. Phenanthrene is one of the most abundant components in the coal-derived liquid. It's also the second and most important component in terms of composition in coal tar, but not used yet. Biphenyl now has some new and advanced chemical market also. There are 4 rings of pyrene, and even the 5 rings if we extend the boiling point when we do the analysis. So how can you do with this? Some of our friends in Japan has done some very interesting work to illustrate the point of simplification. You start with a complicated liquid which has numerous components. But once you do the so-called simplification in the alkylation and cracking treatment, after this short contact on cracking treatment, you can see you start with the numerous component. They come down to more of a manageable range. When we do this treatment a little further, this is actually thermal dealkylation. Now this looks like something that's really usable, because I could, many of us who involved in co-liquefaction, we could simply look at this and say, oh, you must be joking, because this looks like a model compound. We see, in fact, you prepare model compound for reactant, also for DC recalibration response factor. This is really the product from coal. When you do the so-called simplification treatment, one way is to do dealkylation. We have done some work as well on catalytic dealkylation. Another way is the hydrogenation and dehydrogenation treatment. One of the features with polyaromatic hydrocarbons, you have many more isomers due to whether cis or trans, whether the alkylation in the bond ring or in the hydrogenated ring. Potentially due to the dehydrogenation treatment, this is one example for dehydrogenation treatment of a coal liquid. This is actually the coal liquid from the Japanese coal liquefaction plant. You start with one of the distillate fraction, you have many peaks. But after dehydrogenation treatment, now you can see it's really a usable fraction now. Just one methylnaphthalene and two methylnaphthalene, starting from numerous peaks. And now these two components got highly concentrated. The point is that if we start a liquid that has hydroaromatic, hydrogenated, saturated, and then hydroaromatic, you have a complicated mixture. Potentially, by doing the dehydrogenation treatment, we can simply convert 6 compounds into one single chemicals without any cracking, without any carbon-carbon bond cleavage, simply by dehydrogenation. Because you think about 2-methyl-decade, you have a cis, you have a trans. When you dehydrogenate to tetrate, the methyl group can be on the hydroaromatic ring, can be on aromatic ring, then there are 2 more. Okay? And then when you dehydrogenate them, they all become just simply one chemical. This is how we can simplify it. You simplify it before you separate them. So this is the way we perceive to be important for the future, the chemical processing. Now let me get into the next part of the value-added chemicals. In the late 80s, there's a number of new polymer materials that have been developed. The examples that we show here, including naphthalene-based new polyester polymers, and this can be used to make engineering resins, films, and engineering polymers. When you use this to make the film, they can be half as thin as the current polyester terephthalate, but yet stronger. You can use them to make engineering components. Where actually, if you open your tape recorder or simply the TV, you can see lots of plastic components that are used today. Lots of them are based on this type of engineering polymers, and some high-temperature heat-resistant polymers, and liquid crystalline polymers. In fact, in the kitchen today, in your kitchen, you may see some heat-resistant cookware. Some of them are made using this particular one, bisphenol-based framework, because the strong pi-pi intermolecular reactions and the linear structure of this polyaromatic species, they make the polymer much stronger with a greater tensile strength, much higher oxygen barrier, much higher CO2 resistance, so they make great polymer materials. In the early 1990s, and particularly in 91, National Research Council published a special report on the need and opportunities of new polymer materials. And the research need, one of the major research needs to point out is, where do we get these monomers? There's no existing source for these monomers. Bisphenol type, naphthalene type. Well, people, our friends in petroleum industry and petrochemical industry, and actually one of our DOE friends, Shelby Rogers, once said, you can make anything out of anything. And that is true if we don't take the cost into consideration. In fact, coal has ideal structure for us to make those monomers. Phenolic monomers, naphthalene-based monomers, biphenyl-based monomers. We already have plenty of these structure units in the coal. In fact, phenol is one of the plentiful chemicals we can get from lignite and even from the subbituminous coal. Naphthalene is one of the most abundant components. The next one, the phenanthrene unit, we can use the phenanthrene unit to make this type of monomers. Biphenyl, naphthalene. So 1 to 4 ring chemical can make these specialty chemicals, and this is how we decided our future direction. In the late 80s and early 90s, we decided these are the type of chemical that we will take on to develop them from coal. One of the early examples of phenanthrene. Phenanthrene, a lot of research has been done to make use of phenanthrene, and till today there's no industrial use. It's used to make carbon black because there's no chemical use. In our earlier work, I was trying to break this ring to 2 rings so at least we can make use of it in naphthalene case. And one of my early students, Kimberly Morfett from Nottingham in England, in UK, and one of those days she came to us. We began to work on this together. We tried to twist this ring to the unstressed-based ring, which we call the ring shift isomerization. And somehow, if you open up this ring and then bring the arm back into another position, now this phenanthrene structure does not have industrial use, although this is a therapy can be used for polypeptide. But when we convert to this structure, you have widespread industrial applications. If you look at the ring shift isomerization, we look at the large number of samples. I'm just showing you the 3 cases where we use one widespread, white zeolite, which has a widespread use in the FCC catalyst industry and also hydrocracking catalyst. White zeolite is the most active, over 90% conversion at 250 degrees C. And another one is morganite. This one has a lower activity, but when you look at the so-called ring shift selectivity, white zeolite being very active for conversion has very low selectivity. When we change the white morganite, even though the activity drops, but the selectivity, look at the percentage ring shift, it changed from 90 to 91%. And so it certainly depends on the catalyst. But even for the same white zeolite catalyst, we found out that if we do the selective ion exchange reaction with nickel and also replace the solvent from a saturated to aromatic solvent, this particular one is methylamine, then we can decrease the activity but increase the selectivity, the percentage ring shift from 19% to roughly 85%. So this gives us a lot of room by tailoring the catalyst composition, tailoring the catalyst structure to make the reaction proceed more toward the desired reactions. Phenanthrene has been studied for many years, and we were very lucky because we did the reaction at a very low temperature. And later I was wondering why this wasn't done by others, since a lot of people worked on phenanthrene. It turns out we were lucky because we used lower temperature. And if you look at this chart, there are probably literally over 100 papers on phenanthrene reactions, but all for hydrocracking or liquefaction type of reactions, including our own work before, those typically were done at 350 degrees C or higher. Here we show that if you run the reactor at 300 degrees C, you can convert this, but look at the selectivity at the 300 degrees C. Initially, you have some selectivity to the shift, but within minutes, this drops quickly to below 10% or even close to 0 if you use the increased temperature 325 degrees C or higher. But if you run the reactor at 250 degrees C, you have the conversion around the 50, 60, or 70% conversion, but the selectivity is in the order of 87%. When you run the reactor at even lower temperature than 200 degrees C, you can see the selectivity is much higher toward the ring shift isomerization. So it's just a matter we were lucky because we were running a low temperature reaction. A number for possible factor that may be contributing. One of the things we found out is certain aluminum density, the anion framework density is necessary for this reaction. So we propose some mechanism as a possible reaction pathways. Probably the proton attack the central aromatic ring to protonate this first ring, and then maybe it will open up this ring. This was my original proposal, was published in our earlier paper, original paper. Then John Larson from Lehigh University, Professor Larson, is not here, our friend, and I had a discussion with John. John actually suggested that instead of this intermediate, maybe you actually have this 5-membered ring intermediate being more stable. So I acknowledged John and revised this in this ACS book chapter. I incorporated John's suggestion. I still don't know. We have no way of being able to identify this intermediate yet. But once we can stabilize this intermediate, then we can twist the arm around, and the next step will be easy. We can achieve the ring shift. So we have done a lot more experimental work, but in the time of interest, I'll stop here for this reaction. Let me move to the next reaction to introduce something on the naphthalene-based chemicals. Specifically, on naphthalene, we're trying to make the 2,6-base dialkyl group so that we can make the monomer for the specialty polymers, such as polyethylene naphthalate, polybutylene naphthalate, and liquid crystalline polymers. These are the materials that are so-called lighted aluminum and stronger than steel. By the way, one of the liquid crystalline polymer developed by DuPont is so strong that it's used to make a bulletproof vest. So you no longer need a stainless steel plate for our police officers. And one fiber vest will do that. The existing process, one of the process developed by Mitsubishi Chemical to make the 2,6 was starting from HFBF3, which is a superacid catalyst, and using the acylation approach to make this. This was existing in the 1990. When we started our work in 1989, this plant was already in the construction, but I personally did not believe this work, this HFBF3 is environmentally friendly. We did not do any work on that. There was another process at the time we started our work was being pursued intensely, and later in 1996 and 1997 was actually commercialized and by Amoco. It's based on the early patent, but U.S. patent is currently in the open domain publications by Amoco or former Amoco researchers. It's a 4 or 5-step reaction starting from xylene butadiene, using alkali catalyst to do the side alkylation, and then the zeolite catalyst to do the ring closure, and then isomerization again using acid catalyst, and finally oxidation to make this. What we thought is we should be able to do the so-called selective alkylation to selectively put alkyl group on the 2 position and 6 position. And if we succeed in doing that, we will be making 2,6-dialkyl naphthalene. Now, we were not the first one to think this way. Actually, there are several papers published before us, but none of that succeeded. The idea is to using zeolite to selectively exclude the alpha substitution, so we can only make the beta, which is the most desired, beta 2,6. One of the first problems is naphthalene has a high electron density on the 1 position instead of 2. So if you don't do anything, you would more likely to add alkyl group to the 1 rather than 2 in the monoalkylation. In the second alkylation, you have the same problem. So in essence, you have 10 isomers, but only 1 isomer is what you needed. If you achieve the completely alpha-free triple selective alkylation by eliminating all the alpha substitution, you still have 3 dialkyl substitution, 2,6-dialkyl naphthalene, 2,7, and plus 1 more 2,3. The key is just get 2,6, nothing else. Early work had done by George Euler in 1976 on monoalkylation, and they have not published anything on dialkylation. But this is pioneering work. First experimentally proved the equilibrium composition for naphthalene alkylation. They have shown as you increase the size of alkyl group, the percentage of alpha decreases, the percentage of beta in the equilibrium composition increases. Methyl, ethyl, isopropyl. Methyl is the most difficult one. Isopropyl is easier, but in reality, you still don't get the high composition as you will see from this slide. Using Y-zeolite, we can do the alkylation. We can reach reasonable activity. Just one pass, you have 38% conversion of the naphthalene to get the alkylation. But look at the percent of beta substitution, only 33%. So the undesired one is still about 67% of your product in monoalkylation. More challenging is the percent 2,6, only 16%. It's just about the equilibrium here, no more. However, when we change the structure from Y-zeolite to aldenite and twisting the reaction conditions, we can decrease the naphthalene conversion, but the beta selectivity increase from 33% to 88%. And more importantly, the percent 2,6 selectivity now increased to over 65%. And this is more challenging on the aldenite. And this work was published earlier in microporous materials. We have done a large number of catalysts, look at a large number of catalyst various treatment. We plotted pore volume and isomer selectivity against the silica-aluminum ratio of various aldenite. We have modified and treated, acid treated. We got some type of correlation which seemed to make sense and still doesn't make sense to me in some way. But by looking at the crystalline calculation, it turns out that the unicellular volume, when you have a certain shrinkage in the unicellular volume, you tend to favor the 2,6-dialkyl naphthalene, where you have the higher selectivity. How much time do I have, Phil? 2 minutes? Okay, all right. I think, let me skip to the next slide. There are some other reactions we can do is alkylation of biphenyl. Similarly, we can reach the high selectivity, over 85% selectivity to 4,4-diisopropyl biphenyl. One more reaction in the light of interest of time, I will cut down the slide, but just show you the reactions. Other reactions is cisdecylene. We can selectively isomerize it to transdecylene. It turns out the transdecylene is one of the most stable compounds in the jet fuel range, and there is a project at Penn State on thermally stable jet fuels. We are doing also that as part of jet fuel work. And finally, I think you probably wonder that the coal has a lot more heteroaromatic compound. In fact, you can make a specialty chemical from the heteroaromatic compound as well, such as naphthol, such as phenolene. We can selectively hydroxylate one of the rings to make the specialty chemicals depending on the need. These are the examples on the phenolene and naphthol. So let me finish up by pointing out some opportunities in the sense that the direct chemical processing or indirect chemical processing of the coal, through the specific processing, we can indeed obtain value-added or specialty chemicals from coal. And this is the basic method. There are specific ways of doing it. We learned something, but there are lots more things to be learned. But the most important things we need to pay attention to the structural feature of coal and to make value-added chemicals based on coal, unique structure, not alternative chemical to petroleum, not alternative to petrochemicals. I think I will stop here at this time since our chair is standing up there. So, okay, thank you for your attention and congratulations to Berkeley.
Do we have any questions for the speaker?
Well, I just want to point out, your dialkylation of naphthalene with propylene and mordenite to give the 2,6-diisopropyl naphthalene is very interesting. However, there was a very clever chemist at Amoco who found that he could alkylate with highly ethylated benzenes. I think it was pentaethylbenzene, aluminum chloride, and 2-methylnaphthalene, and make 2,6-methyl ethyl or 2,6-diethyl. And they turned that down because the economics of burning 2 carbon atoms to carbon dioxide, they went to the alkylation process that you showed, and that's how they're producing the material now.
That's an excellent point. I did not have time to really talk any more details. In fact, a lot of our later research is focused on dimethyl naphthalene, and our work has been supported all by Amoco. It's that indicating important feature, but that's a very interesting point. The acylation, I'm aware of that.
Other questions?
Yes.
So have you think about use oil sand?
Use oil sand.
So the oil sand, I don't know what the composition of oil sand. You make a comparison with the coal.
Okay.
So they are similar.
Yes.
They're quite
Yes.
far away.
Okay. Let me just repeat the question. The question was, have you looked at the oil from oil sand or tar sand? We did not do specific work on oil sand, but in terms of chemical composition, the oil from oil sand is similar to the so-called petroleum-based heavy oil. In fact, you can classify them in the same category. We look at the chemical composition which has been published in the literature. You can see that when you look at the middle distillate range or the light to middle distillate range, you can indeed find some aromatic chemicals, but the concentrations are very low. If you look at the FCC cracker, one of the fractions from the tar sand is called the light cycle oil, which is being done as well as the petroleum base. That fraction has more of the two-ring chemicals and three-ring chemicals, naphthalene and phenolphthalein in particular. Shale oil is slightly different, but tar sand oil are very similar to the petroleum base.
We have time for one short question. Oh, good, I can ask.
Okay.
You presented a lot of opportunities, but where do you think, what's the most promising product that you could potentially make, or the first thing that maybe would actually try to be commercialized?
The first thing that likely to be commercialized earlier, in fact, there are certain commercial efforts based on our work on dimethyl naphthalene and 4,4-dimethylbiphenyl. These two are likely to be the early entries if there were any commercial ones. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the speaker very much for an interesting talk.
Thank you.
From the chemical